Jackie Powell's been at New York Liberty practice. She's here to share what she's learned. Locked on Women Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hi there and happy Monday. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. I am your host, Howard Megdal, founder and editor at The Next. Very excited to be with you and very excited to be talking New York Liberty basketball with Jackie Powell. Jackie, do you consider seafoam green the preeminent color in New York City?
Yeah, I think so. I think the Statue of Liberty has some very profound significance in New York.
Although technically it exists in New Jersey. That's right.
Ellis Island. And
it is physically in the state of New Jersey, geographically. It's true. It's true. Just one of the many ways in which New Jersey gets short shrift, unfortunately. And yet, it's true. New Jersey, beacon of freedom. Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like that color feels very much like New York. And also, what feels like New York is, of course, the Liberty. They are practicing and playing within the 5 boroughs, something that I know I, for one, do not yet take for granted after the exile to Westchester. We've both talked about this. Our commute is considerably longer to go cover the Liberty than it was. Still, you wouldn't trade it for anything, right?
Nope, not at all. I was actually talking to Jen Hatfield, our managing editor and Mystics beat reporter, and we were talking about our commutes, and she was talking about how hers has gotten longer, and I said the same exact thing that Howard, you just said just now, which is, listen, my commute used to be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I would not trade the current situation back to my commute being 10 minutes because the Westchester County Center was an absolute nightmare.
Insufficient for high school, let alone professional. And I have a lot of affection for the Westchester County Center. Look, my parents and my wife were vaccinated at the Westchester County Center. So I'm very grateful to that building and the people who have been within it. But no, it was not a professional arena. And I'm glad to see. We're going to get a closer look, of course, on Thursday, not just at Barclays Center, but we're going to get a look at the locker rooms and get to talk to lots of people. But you have been busy on the case over at Liberty practice, taking things in. So I guess the place I want to start, if we can keep the theme New Jersey, is Jocelyn Willoughby. So take me through Willoughby, who missed the 2021 season with a knee injury. Very disappointed. I know we both were in not getting to see her grow and develop as a player. What are you seeing so far out of Jocelyn Willoughby, and what can she be for this Liberty team?
Well, I see Jocelyn Willoughby as a perfectionist that is learning to be a bit more patient with herself. Although you could argue that she's been very patient for a very long time. I remember when she entered the Wubble, I wrote a profile on her, and I guess the thematic element of that piece was that Jocelyn Willoughby is the ultimate balancer of many different things. She has mastered how to be a balancing act. And she continues to do that now. So she's in training camp while she's also finishing up her master's from the University of Virginia. I also know that she was on campus during the off season. She was rehabbing from the injury at UVA while doing her coursework. She also launched season 2 of Read What You Sow. And
Mhm.
I asked her about how season 2 went. And so, for those of you who don't know what Read What You Sow is, it is her book club that she does with Liberty fans, and they do it on Zoom. And so, what she told me about season 2 is that it felt more intimate. She felt like she really knew some of these people because they were doing this for a second time.
Mhm.
And she looks forward to actually meeting these people face to face
I'm sure.
because
I'll bet she does.
Mhm.
That's very Jocelyn Willoughby, and obviously a clear case of underachieving with all that she's doing. It kind of boggles the mind, all that by itself, and then you say, "Oh, right," and also a professional basketball player. But here she is
Yes.
doing a little bit of everything. I do think it's interesting the way she fits on this roster. This is a roster where there are some clearly defined guards, some clearly defined bigs, but the wins and the win minutes, particularly in a Sandy Brondello system, feel a little bit in flux. There's obviously Beck Allen, and there's obviously Michaela Onyenwere, and what she brought last year. Does Jocelyn Willoughby do something that separates her, a separation from even those two when it comes to what the Liberty can expect from her?
From Beck Allen, I'm not sure, but from Michaela Onyenwere, I absolutely think there is a separator. And I think it's that Jocelyn has the ceiling to be a solid two-way player in this league. It was very clear in the Wubble how comfortable she was defensively and how she was a matchup nightmare wherever she was.
Mhm.
What I think, although when I asked Sandy about her, Sandy mostly said that she wants to have her play on the perimeter. So what that's going to mean is she's going to be playing the 3 a lot.
Mhm.
But I also think Sandy will be open to, Jocelyn cutting in the paint, receiving passes near the basket, posting up smaller guards. I mean, Jocelyn Willoughby is strong. At
Mhm.
6 foot, I think it was during the Wubble season. And mind you, that roster in 2020 was questionable. She was called the strongest player on that roster, which you had a 6'5" Amanda Zowie B, you had a 6'3" Kia Stokes. Those aren't superstars, of course, but those are veterans. And
And strong, legit bigs who have spent years in the weight room. Yeah.
yes. So Jocelyn Willoughby, I believe, has a pro-ready body and a
Mhm.
willingness to play well on both ends of the floor. Michaela Onyenwere had a very defined role,
Mhm.
and she struggled defending some of the fours in the league, which is totally understandable. But I question how well she can defend
Mhm.
in a Sandy system and how well she can defend on the wing.
It's really interesting. That's one part that I think will be fascinating in 2022. The other to me is that Michaela's strong start from beyond three-point range did not last for the season. And Jocelyn Willoughby was a dead-eye three-point shooter, I believe, north of 40% in at least 2 of her final 3 seasons. And the third one, I think she was right around 40. And so having those 2 skills are just so vital when it comes to a starting WNBA 3. Of course, all of that's dependent on Willoughby getting back to 100%. Do you think physically that's where she is?
I think it is. I think what it comes down to is it's mentally trusting herself. I think
Mhm.
that's sort of where she is. And also, I think it's very different being on the basketball court and going through practice physically versus when she would sit and she would watch and she would take things in using her brain. I think those are two different skills. And
Mhm.
so she's very hard on herself. I asked her, I said, so what have been moments in training camp that have been joyful for you? And
Hmm.
she sort of said to me, she said, I really haven't taken a lot of time to think like that because she's mostly been afraid of just making a mistake.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe that comes from the fact that there are roster spots on the line. It could. I'm not sure.
Mhm. Jocelyn Willoughby coming back and Hobby's Delicatessen coming back are two really wonderful 2022 success stories for the city of Newark, New Jersey. So I'm thrilled to hear it, and I'm glad that she is on the mend. We take a moment and sell some ads, if I may, and we're going to start with Athletic Greens. So our next partner has a product. It's everywhere. AG1, right? It's for energy. It's something that's supposed to help with gut health, optimize your immune system. It's a drink. If you don't like taking pills or vitamins, it's a supplement that tastes like fresh vegetables, right? What is this stuff? It's one delicious scoop of AG1 that has 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and yes, adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, you name it. And it costs less than $3 a day. You're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit, although one does not preclude the other. And I am living proof of that. To make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NBA network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com/NBA network to take advantage and take ownership of your health. So, Jackie, as we move beyond Jocelyn Willoughby and we're talking about just some of the players that you are seeing across this roster, it feels like the Liberty have a good problem, but a problem nonetheless to solve, which is to say, there's a roster crunch coming. Just take me through how you break that down as we sit here now, what I believe is 12 days until opening night.
Yeah, I mean, so how it's gonna work is right now they have 12 players in camp. Actually, probably if Stephanie Dolson arrived today,
Mhm.
which was the day she was expected to, and also she did win the Hungarian championship on Saturday, that would actually take that number to 13 players.
Can I just very briefly,
Yes.
do you think Steph is tired of winning? 'Cause it's been quite a year, right? I mean, holy cow. She went out, she won 3-on-3, she won in Chicago, she won the Hungarian championship. She's just what's she gonna even do with all these trophies?
You should ask her that on Thursday. I'm sure she'd love to answer that
Well, I
question.
think I will ask her that. We'll report back. But go on anyway, you were saying.
So that would take us to around 13, or that would take them to
Mhm,
around 13 players in camp. And at this point, no one needs to be cut because, as
mm,
we know, 15 is the maximum amount of players that can be in training camp.
right.
And so the Liberty can get through training camp without having to waive or suspend anyone. A decision will have to be made before the opening day, and most likely you'd expect that they would waive Paris Key, who I believe is the only training camp contract on
Mm,
their books. And Rebecca Allen is not in camp at the moment. She is playing for Valencia in Spain. The Spanish league is going through their playoffs at this moment. She will play in a quarterfinal game on April 28th.
mhm,
And she is expected to arrive anywhere from the latest she could arrive, I believe, is May 15th.
mhm,
So it looks like she's going to miss the beginning of the regular season, which will allow the Liberty to figure out, okay, Beck has a guaranteed contract.
mhm.
Someone is going to have to go. Who that person is, I'm assuming there are a couple of options.
Mhm.
There is who wins the Battle of the Bigs between Lorella Kobai and Kylie Shook.
Hmm.
Um, Both have similar but also different skill sets. I can tell you that in camp, at least to the portion of practice that I've seen, Kubai has been getting a lot of time on the floor.
Mhm.
The sense I get is they want to see what she has, and you're not going to know until you put her out on the court.
They've seen Kylie for a couple years, so that makes sense. A lot of times that has been misleading, whoever's out there, and so you make a great point about that, that it's not necessarily who's getting the most time that is the favorite in the clubhouse.
Yes. I've seen Shook actually. So, what's interesting about both Shook and Sammy Whitcomb is they come over from an Australian season. I don't think they had much time in between, maybe like a week. And so I've seen Kylie, she had like a giant like ice pack around one of her knees. And
Mhm.
then she was like hanging out in, what are those things called? They're like, you sort of slide into them. They're like footsies around your legs. They're black and
A compression chamber. Yes.
yes.
I first saw that I covered Kevin Durant when he was using one years ago. He had pioneered it. Now you see him everywhere.
Yes. So Kylie was just chilling in one of those when we came in for practice. And again, I think they're trying to, and now that the Liberty have a very comprehensive player care staff,
Mhm.
they're able to do these things. They know how to preserve their players, especially Kylie coming in after a full Australian season.
Right.
So there's that. There's also looking at Michaela Onyenwere and Jocelyn Willoughby. That
Do you think
battle.
there's a chance that one of them might not make the team?
I don't think. I think they will make it past Paris Key,
Mhm.
but when Beck comes back,
Right.
there's a question there. And
Oh,
also,
so good. My God, we need 15-person rosters in this league.
yes, we do. And if Maureen Johannes does come over in June, another person will have to either be waived or suspended.
Mhm.
So, and we haven't mentioned Asia Durr, who
Right.
goes by AD, who is a bit of a mystery
Mm.
in the case that they have not played live basketball at game speed in over 2 years.
Yeah.
And adjusting back to this has been challenging. But I spoke to Durr or AD, my mistake, on third or Friday, my mistake. And their goals for this training camp were just to have fun.
Hmm.
Their expectations don't seem to be very specific.
Mhm.
They just want to enjoy themselves after having been isolated for 2 years.
I think with AD, there's multiple factors there. One is what an easy story to root for, right? With all they've gone through. There's just also for me, and this kind of dates back to AD's Louisville days, a player who has overcome so much and has worked so hard, but this is an unforgiving league. It's going to be really interesting to see how that shakes out. I want to talk to you about our expectations for Thursday, but before I do, I want to talk about something very close to my heart, and that is the puffs from Built Bar. The first ever protein infused marshmallow. Protein infused marshmallow. They're fluffy. They're not just a protein bar, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. How often have you tasted chocolate and you say, I'm sorry, are you real chocolate? And the chocolate's like, no, right? This is real chocolate on top of cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. they're all going to be your new favorite. There's, oh God, but I'm going to blow up. I'm going to swell up. No, you won't. 130 calories, 4 grams net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Much better than a candy bar. I recently went to a convenience store. I was looking for a snack. I was out of Built bars, and they didn't sell them. And I was mad. I was audibly upset that I had to settle for a lesser protein bar. And let me tell you, I ate it. It was a lesser protein bar. So go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, that's LOCKED 15, and get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Do it like my mom does it. And then when you do, tell them Grandma Myrna sent you. So we're going to be in Brooklyn on Thursday. We're going to see the locker room. We're going to see Jonathan Kolb. We're going to see Kia Clark. We're going to see all the coaches, all the players. What are you most curious about?
Oh, wow. There's a lot to be curious about. I am excited to see the locker room.
Likewise.
I'm very excited to talk to some of the assistant coaches about what exactly this player development apparatus that they have is, what it looks like, how it's been functioning. And I specifically apply that to Han Shu, someone who we have not spoken about and sort of shocked the whole women's basketball space when we found out, oh my God, she's actually back.
And she's tall now. Back in the day, she was a tiny little thing of 6'9". Now she's 6'10". Does she look taller to you in person when you see her?
Yes, she does. Apparently, with her socks on, she is 6'10". So with sneakers, we could be looking at 6'11".
Remarkable. Listen, I have been so fascinated by Han Shu's game since the moment I saw her on video, even before she got drafted. So just the fact that she is here, she is in camp. I don't know what to expect. I don't think anybody has any reason to know what to expect. What do you think the Liberty will use her as? Is she a backup center? Is she somebody who will get regular minutes? She didn't get regular minutes the last time she was here.
So I've seen Han Shu on the floor quite a bit. And I think the reason for that, Sandy wants to see what she has.
Mm-hmm.
It seems very clear to me that they're invested in her development. There was a really cool moment where I saw Olaf Lang, who is one of the assistants and Sandy's husband,
I was going to say, yes,
take Han aside. And Sandy's children were there this past week because it was their spring break. And so they flew out to Brooklyn to be with their parents and see camp. And they actually both helped out. And so Olaf grabbed their son, 14-year-old Brody, and was showing Han how to screen. And he was using Brody to try to show her the correct angle to stand at. I mean, this is fascinating stuff. And I am so glad that we get to see this again. It's been 2 years without any of this.
I mean, I just want to point out, we're going to see the locker room, but then we're going to see the locker room regularly as part of media access. And I just think it's important that everybody understands somebody like Jackie Powell, who observes everything and takes note of everything, unleashed on the ability to see behind the scenes. It's just going to make it's important for the next. And so obviously follow our work at thenexthoops.com and follow everything Jackie does, both at the Next and at Bleacher Report. She's always must read. But more to the point, it just makes for better reporting, for a better understanding of this league that we all want to know more about. So I love that you're pointing this out, because I think it's really significant. I noticed it too with Jen Hatfield's story the other day about the Mystics and about Elena Deladon, and just there's an understanding that I think goes beyond it. But yeah, seeing that and seeing the children involved, I love to hear that. I'm very excited about all of this. But before we close, I do want to let people know we're your first listen, but for your second listen, and Jackie, this might be surprising to you, there is a men's basketball league too. I don't know if you had heard. It's called the NBA, and there are shows across the Locked On NBA network. So I would urge all of you, once you finish listening to us and consuming all of our work at the Next, go ahead and check it out. Locked On NBA. Those experts will take you deep inside the playoffs with insight and analysis affecting all 30 teams. You hear that, Jackie? There's a league with 30 teams. Yeah, that'd be nice, huh? That'd be nice. Well, 12 for now. 12 for now, 30 Locked On NBA. And we kid, obviously, Jackie and I have both covered the men's league as well. And it's a wonderful lead in its own right. So Locked On NBA. Well, Jackie Powell, so great to chat with you today. So excited to see you on Thursday in person. But make sure everyone is following you at Classic J Powell. And thank you for your time as always.
Yes. Thank you, Howard, for having me on. And I'm very excited for Thursday.
Me too. And until then, Locked On Women's Basketball. Make sure you're with us every weekday. Tomorrow, sneak preview. It's M. Adler. Ooh, get ready for the hot takes. I'm Howard Megdal. Have a wonderful day.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.